As discussed in Unit 1, Virginia's first settlers did not view themselves as American. The colonizers of Jamestown hardly believed their time in the New World would be permanent. Even before leaving for the New World, members of the Joint Stock Company insisted that their native rights as Englishmen would be protected while they extended their nation's empire across the Atlantic. The right to representation in government was an expectation that these settlers would not be denied, even if Parliament was 3,800 miles away. The values and rights of Englishmen would plant the seeds for American republicanism on the shores of Virginia. This section is devoted to an explanation of how political and religious customs from England were fostered and transformed in the southern English colonies during the 17th century. The right to representation in English constitutionalism was first established in the Magna Carta 400 years prior to the colonies and has been evolving ever since. While no British colonist would ever be given a seat in the British Parliament House of Commons, the American colonies, beginning with Virginia's House of Burgesses in 1619, allowed colonists to form their own representative bodies for local government. Modeled after Parliament, the men of Jamestown chose an assembly of 6 delegates to make policy for the colony. As English settlement expanded, the House of Burgesses remained the lawmaking body of Virginia, which guaranteed landowning white men the right to elect their representatives. With the destruction of Jamestown, the House of Burgesses moved to Williamsburg in 1699, where it remained until the American Revolution. Fearing a British naval invasion, Virginia lawmakers moved the assembly to Richmond. Following statehood, the House of Burgesses became the House of Delegates, or the lower house of Virginia's bicameral legislature. Distance from England made local control of government affairs necessary, but that did not mean it was popular with monarchs. To limit the democratic whims of Virginia colonists and joint stock investors, King James counterbalanced it by declaring Virginia a royal colony, replacing the authority of the Virginia Company with his own, and appointing the colonial governor as head executive of the colony that could veto laws passed by the colonists that weren't in the interest of the empire. Eventually, all English colonies became royal colonies with governors loyal to the crown. 27 years would pass before another plantation colony like Virginia was established along the southern Atlantic coast. The economy of Maryland would mirror that of its southern neighbor, Virginia. Mass production of tobacco on plantations worked by indentured servants, white European laborers who had been contracted to serve their landlords for a period of years as a means to reimburse them for paying for their fare to the New World. But unlike the Virginians, Maryland's founders were also motivated by religious incentives. Since Queen Elizabeth established the Anglican Church as the official religion of the empire, Catholics and critics of the crown and the church experienced much persecution. English North America would become a safe haven for religious refugees. Beginning in 1620, religious radicals called the Puritans began establishing sanctuary colonies 600 miles north of Chesapeake Bay. In 1634, Cecil Calvert, the second Baron of Baltimore, or Lord Baltimore for short, chartered the colony of Maryland for the profit and protection of his family and their Catholic friends. In the style of the English manor system, Lord Baltimore guaranteed huge estates and their profits to his relatives and recruited colonists to labor there. Indentured servants to the proprietors were willing to colonize Maryland if they were granted a tract of land of their own upon the completion of their service. Soon Maryland was populated by small-scale farmers who were mostly Anglican and resentful of their Catholic gentry. resentment turned to rebellion that not only stripped Baltimore of his proprietorship, but English Catholics of their New World oasis. Ultimately, religious diversity in Maryland led it to become a cradle for religious tolerance. In 1649, as their political capital dwindled, Maryland Catholics put their support behind the famed Act of Toleration, which guaranteed legal tolerance to all Christian denominations. The Act of Toleration did not apply to non-Christian faiths or atheists who could still be executed for denying the divinity of Christ, but it did provide the foundations for the American rights of religious liberty and separation of church and state instituted in the Bill of Rights 142 years later.